Tony Dekker's music spans nearly 2 decades as a lead singer and songwriter of Great Lake Swimmers. Over 8 albums, multiple EPs, live broadcasts, and reissues, the Toronto-based group has established itself as a beloved indie folk act in Canada and beyond. Great Lake Swimmers has been shortlisted for the Polaris Prize and nominated twice for the Juno Awards, and they have a brand new album out called Uncertain Country. And lucky for us, I have Tony Dekker waiting on the line now. Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Thanks for chatting with me today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great. You have been a person that I've wanted to talk to for a very long time. This might be kind of a broad question, but what is different about this particular album for you?
Ooh, well, that's hard to say. It's definitely the longest I've spent on an album in recent years, just because I actually have the time to do that. As a through line to all of our records is recording in sort of interesting acoustic spaces, old halls and old churches and things. So there's that going on with it. I don't know. I felt like this was sort of a response to the sort of tumultuous time that we all felt over the last couple of years. And we wanted to make music that just felt good to play and felt good to listen to and was sort of a balm in a way. Yeah, it was inspired by a trip up to the North Shore of Lake Superior in the summer of 2019. And we had our first recording session scheduled for the end of March 2020.
Yeah.
And of course, that all got canceled. And we had a European tour in April of 2020 that got canceled, and all along down the line, right? It happened to everyone. Everything got canceled. So we just sort of approached this one like we were making demos that had some sort of good feeling about them, about getting together again and playing as a group, and with no real intention of like, we're making an album. It's like, we have a couple days where it's safe to get together. Let's see what we can do and throw some stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And in the end, after 2 or 3 years, we had a whole bunch of kind of demos, in quotation marks. But as we started working on them, we're like, this is kind of the album. This is it. There's a lot of different flavors and a lot of different dynamics and different approaches going on in all the different kinds of songs that are on it. So it's all pieced together from different sessions and with various different people and in different locations in the Niagara region, basically where I'm based now. We drew upon a lot of local people, and in the end, I was hoping all the songs played together well, because they were so different. But I feel like that itself became its own thing, just coming out of that time. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. We spent a lot of time on it.
Do you feel like you prefer this way of making an album, like just having the extra time? How did it feel different in terms of like just the experience of creating an album?
Oh man, it was such anxious times, and like, this is our 20th year as a project, as a group. There's some people that have been with us from the beginning, and obviously our band kind of changes with every record, the live touring band and the different people coming in and out of the mix. It's a bit of a revolving cast, but recording a record would be something that we did in a couple of weeks between tours, literally. And that's how it would sort of roll. And with this one, we had a lot of time to really just sit with the mixes, and months would go by and we'd come back to it. Then finally it was time to like put it all together, and we had just so much to choose from. And it's not how I'm normally used to working. And I like to do things a little bit quicker and get some ideas down and have the songs ready and then push on, and get on the road. And this one has just been a long stretch from beginning to end. I think I kind of like doing it a little bit more on the fly and a little quicker. But this, I think, just really yielded something really special in its own way too. It's hard to kind of put the finger on exactly what it was, but even though they were just demos, it was somehow a little bit more considered,
Yeah, and not to be like totally cheesy, but I feel like it was a piece of certainty in this time of uncertainty.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it, actually. That's true. Despite the uncertain times, that was the constant.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I feel like creativity is like this friend or this companion, and sometimes you have a long time with this friend and you have time to spend and get to know this friend. And sometimes you're like, friend, we got this job to do. We got to do it. Let's go, and you're like, thank you for being
Totally.
here.
And sometimes it's the flower that blooms up through the cracks in the concrete too, and it just sort of like it sprouts up where you kind of don't expect it.
Amen. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I always say that, nature and creativity like always win, because you will find like a tomato plant growing in the middle of like, the highway, and you're like, how did you get here? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And it's such a gift, especially in precarious times. I would love to play a song from the album. Can you pick a tune and tell our listeners about it?
Yeah, we had the opportunity to collaborate with a really great group of women in the Niagara region that belong to a group called Minuscule.
Mm.
It's a women's choir that is about up to 30 people strong. And when we were listening to some of the tracks, the producer that I was working with, Joe Lipinski, here in the Niagara region, I said to Joe, I really hear a couple tracks that have some group voices on it, maybe a choir or a bunch of people singing. And he immediately knew who to call. He had worked with a woman named Laurel Minnis who leads this choir called Minuscule.
Ah,
And
cool.
yeah, and he said, why don't we get them in to sing a song? And it was during the summertime. It was a really nice summer evening. Things were seemed like they were opening up again. So we got it. We got them together in this really cool old historic church. And Laurel did these arrangements and brought her group Minuscule on board to sing with us. So I'd really love to play one of those tracks. It's
Sure.
called Moonlight Stay Above was one of the two tracks that they sang on.
Amazing. I love that. From the album Uncertain Country by Great Lake Swimmers, this is Moonlight Stay Above.